Last week things were still positive, but over the weekend everything changed. And now we're seeing sell in May again, or what happens next. The outlook and the current situation regarding the trade war and the oil price, which probably also dragged the Bitcoin price down. All this and much more in the video. Hey, and welcome to Crypto Eule. Last week I was still very bullish, and then we were away for a few days visiting family in Brandenburg, and you come back thinking, what happened here? Yeah, so we need to jump right into the market update to catch you up on what happened, and we've broken through our registration channel, as you can see here. Our registration channel, which was actually running very positively here from April 9th up to here with these nice colors, in my opinion, until May 28th, and sell in May and go away. But remember, come back in September, the famous summer slump. So has it really hit now? That is the big question. In any case, we can see that the 20 EMA line, the red line which I was praising so much on Wednesday, well, as we can see here, everything still looked good on Wednesday, and after that we definitely broke out of this registration channel. I had to create a new one, there was no other way. You can see it even more clearly in the daily chart or in the 4-hour chart. And already on Tuesday and Wednesday we were nibbling at that 20 EMA, you have to say, that red line. And yes, it's really difficult right now to assess everything that's happening. But what happened there was definitely not a positive sign, and of course that also dragged the Bitcoin chart down after Wednesday, or rather on Thursday, and again on Friday evening after the markets closed in the US. Yes, and we'll be addressing this whole topic in a moment, definitely. It's mainly about tariffs against the EU, and the DAX hasn't reacted yet in the index, but as we can see here on Financenet, it just reacted after it opened this morning. The first numbers, or rather, the first figures that the DAX delivered. They were, of course, negative after Donald Trump has now actually increased the tariffs. So we'll take a closer look at that in a moment. Let's move on to the companies. And with companies, the situation is a bit more complicated. I could just extend my registration channel here and say, yes, that's how it is. It broke out 3 times there, but somehow I don't like that. So after this breakout here, after this breakout right at the 20-day EMA, we moved upward and are still just barely, really just barely trading above this 20-day EMA on the daily chart. It's going to be interesting to watch, so keep an eye on it. If we break below it, it will definitely keep going down. If we keep trading above it, then it might be possible to hold at $2,500. It's really exciting to watch right now. Bitcoin, yes, has dropped from, we saw it, Friday last week, or rather the week before last, on Friday, May 23rd, we were still around 112,000 or so. And now we're at $105,000. We even dropped down to $103,000 on Saturday and thought that's it. Now we're going to break below $100,000 as well. But the positive thing is the $100,000 mark is still holding, and that's definitely a positive sign. So that's the current state of the market. Now, of course, the question is what actually happened? And I'm always surprised at how everything takes its own turn. Whether it's Donald Trump, the trade war, or even the budget bill in the US, it's crazy because if you quickly look at the Dow Jones chart, you'll see that it also dropped on Friday. Why is that? It's so crazy, but let's take a closer look at it now. So, what exactly just happened? And as we've seen, I actually reported on it positively in a short video, which got a lot of views on TikTok. Many people said, yes, that's very positive. Namely, 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum from Europe to the USA. Yes, we're familiar with that. Currently, it's 25%. And Donald Trump said, we're going to raise that to 50%. The EU then said, look, we'd like to make you an offer, maybe one you can't refuse, but first just let us make an offer and give us a bit more time until the 4th of July. Trump initially said, sure, let's do that, good idea. But now he said, nope, I don't even want to wait for the EU, I'm just going to go ahead with it. So he ended up raising the tariffs after all. Starting from June 4th, there are 2 more days for steel and aluminum, 25 to 50%. And the EU immediately said that under these circumstances, a trade agreement is impossible. So not only did he break his word and say, look, I'm not going to do it on July 4th after all, but I'm going to do it on June 4th because that's how I wanted to do it. And then the EU said, under these conditions, a trade agreement is not possible. And that was exactly the movement we saw here in the DAX. It was to be expected, it was clear, and a lot of people traded based on that. And when it starts off with such a red candle, of course, many people also go long again because they say, look, it won't keep falling forever, it's going to rise again. And that's why we're seeing this cushioning effect right now. Maybe you've noticed it too. I already noticed it at the gas station. Gasoline, premium, and so on have dropped a bit in price. I was able to fill up with premium for $1.62, I have to say. That was a very good price, and while I was on the road, so really good. But the chart, of course, didn't take all this very well. If you take a look at WTI here, it went down, at least in the CFDs. It just dropped after that announcement. That's very likely to happen in July. So far, it's only about the talks or possibly the discussions about increasing the barrels per day to 411,000 barrels per day. That's what OPEC is currently working on, and it could take effect starting in July. And just because there was already some discussion about it, the oil price dropped as well, a big fat candle in the oil price. And of course, that caused crypto charts to react a bit in the short term too, because no matter what happens on the global market, crypto also reacts to things like this. And that, of course, added even more to everything else that's still to come. Then we have the other trade dispute, not just between the USA and the EU, but also between the EU, the USA, and China. And it's really intense there because Trump is accusing China of violating agreed upon terms. I've put it in general terms. They discuss something, and it's mainly about the trade in rare earths. So a trade agreement with China is at risk here. And China has just escalated things even further. They responded quite directly, and now China is saying that the United States is the greatest threat to peace and stability. That's pretty intense. And of course, this makes the whole issue of a trade agreement with China really dangerous, and a trade deal with China is absolutely at risk. And that's why I now believe that this issue will definitely continue throughout the summer, and in the end, will push us right into a summer slump. Well, we'll see. Here I posted again. This was basically the weekend when I said, yeah, maybe we actually won't have a summer slump after all. It's definitely going to stay interesting. But I also said that the chart needs to cool off. I did say that, and that's a very important point. We'll come back to that in the outlook in just a moment. Yes, and now the chart has cooled off, so it can start rising again. Of course, it remains exciting. Yes, but this trade agreement will continue to accompany us throughout the summer. We can definitely count on that. Yes, Doge has dropped, and that's because of a new US budget law. Elon Musk is extremely disappointed about this and says it massively hinders the work of Doge, that is, the Department of Governance Efficiency. And this has been reflected in the Doge chart. Isn't that crazy again? So the meme coin is reacting to the statement that the work of Doge is being hindered. And as crazy as all of this is, in the end, it remains positive, because the Bitcoin chart is still trading above $100,000. Bitcoin is also a bit of a topic of discussion again right now. There are articles about it, we'll get to that in a moment, but there's something else. 300 Bitcoin were donated to Ross Ulbricht. Ross Ulbricht, founder of Silk Road, is now free again, as we know, but 300 Bitcoin have been donated and the discussion is starting up again. Ross Ulbricht, 300 Bitcoin, founder of Silk Road. Yes, and of course that's dangerous, because a lot of people are saying that if he received 300 Bitcoin here, then it could possibly be that these might, through some detours, still come from Silk Road after all. A dangerous matter. It's currently being hotly debated. There are a load of tweets about it right now, and especially after the Bitcoin conference, it's a very, very hot topic, I have to say. I just wanted to mention that to you. But Ross Ulbricht also received a bit more money, namely 11 Bitcoin. His ID was auctioned off for 11 Bitcoin, no joke. Specifically, his prison card, meaning his ID in prison, was auctioned off for 11 Bitcoin. Just think about it, that's over $1 million for this ID. Crazy. I mean, what people pay for things, it's really crazy. Speaking of cards, the hardware wallet Tangem currently has a bit of an offer. They've just lowered the price a bit on the winter edition. And for the Pizza Day edition, there's a special price. Remember, you can get another 10% off with Crypto Yule, so you can definitely save a bit right now if you want to get one of these wallets. Of course, all the other ones are available too. We also have here, well, HIT means it's the best wallet, the one that sells the most, or rather, the one people want the most. But there's also the limited edition with the stealth design, which has no logo on it. I've heard that one is currently in very high demand, in addition to the summer edition. I also requested one for myself. I think this is the one I wanted. In any case, this year's summer edition is still available, and what's special is that with a bit of luck, you can get 100% cashback. That means if you're shopping at Tonjam right now, not only do you get 10% off plus possibly special prices if you want one of these two, so a bit cheaper, but there's also full cashback, 100% cashback as an additional prize for 30 people. I've also noticed that a lot of people have been actively shopping again this month, or rather in May. So keep that in mind. There might be cashback available here, just as a heads up. And you should definitely take advantage of that if you're interested. Yes, and as I mentioned, there are more articles about Bitcoin. Not only are the 300 Bitcoins from Ross Ulbricht currently being discussed, but there's also new news. Namely, Bitcoin is supposedly so harmful to the environment that has to be said. In fact, Bitcoin produces 98 million tons of CO2 per year. Bitcoin, the nasty network, produces 98 million tons of CO2 every year. And yes, that's obviously bad, you have to admit, at least if you believe the media. By now, however, it's the case that the electricity used by Bitcoin miners, over 50% of it, at least based on what we can see, now comes from solar energy. That's why, honestly, I have to say, people don't always believe everything you hear. There is now plenty of evidence that the consumption is no longer as extreme and that not as much coal or nuclear power is being used anymore. Although, regarding nuclear power, didn't a chancellor admit that it's actually CO2 neutral, at least when speaking to the French president? Yeah, I keep saying the world is crazier right now than you might think. Now, we also have our partner for today's video, which is Blowfin. In addition to their 20% cashback promotions, which are still ongoing for the Crypto Yule community. Definitely check that out. There's also a giveaway going on right now, so take a look at that as well. It's currently running, and 2 winners will be announced within the next 7 days. You can win 300 USDT just through the tweet. I'll link the tweet for you below, and check out Blowfin because you can buy and trade cryptocurrency on Blowfin, whether in your browser or in their own app. By signing up with Blowfin, you get access to over 500 cryptocurrencies on spot and another 800 through futures trading. You can even try copy trading or trading bots here, and even test yourself with demo trading to see if you can make a profit. Blowfin and Crypto Yule are celebrating a partnership, and this is being marked with 20% cashback on your first deposit. This is limited to $500 and only for the first users until May 31st. So signing up and making a deposit could really pay off here. Depositing euros and receiving cryptocurrencies is very easy with their partner, for example, Simplex and others, but other currencies are also available here. In addition to their reward hub, where you can earn extra rewards, you can also generate passive income in the earn section, either flexibly or locked in for example, 180 days, such as here, 2.56% on USDT. Check out the fastest growing crypto exchange of the past 3 years and get an additional 20% cashback. Remember, this offer is limited. So let's move on to the outlook. I could bombard you with a lot of news again here, but I'll focus a bit more on the outlook since that's what a lot of people are interested in right now. It's now the beginning of June 2nd, and many people are wondering whether we'll see a summer slump or not. In the last video, I said I'm more on the bullish side. Now, of course, we're facing a completely different situation, and we can basically say that this trade war between the EU and the USA is going to intensify. The trade agreement with China is absolutely at risk. Maybe peace in Ukraine could be a positive turning point, but honestly, I don't believe in that at the moment either. So I think that in the summer, with these new developments and insights, we probably won't be seeing such positive news. However, I don't think we're going to see a major summer slump. So what did I tell you in the last video? Let's briefly go over that. The 20-day EMA line is important. We've been trading well above the 20-day EMA, so if we fall below it, then it heads toward the 50-day EMA. The 50-day EMA is currently just above $100,000, I have to say, so just over $100,000. But if the Bitcoin chart moves downward, it will also move down a bit. So $100,000 could really be a level in the summer where we need to be a bit cautious. So the trade agreement with China is absolutely at risk. The trade war between the EU and the USA is just really getting started. Then there's peace in Ukraine. I think that's still a long way off. The parties are still too far apart. More needs to happen. Unfortunately, more needs to happen for them to come closer together. And the topic in July, so in another month, is whether oil production will be increased. That will definitely influence the oil chart again, and Bitcoin or crypto will also react because depending on when the news comes out, they're the only ones that are open at that time. Then we see the next money supply, M2. You can actually see in advance what's happening with the money supply. And in Japan, there's a financial crisis, a lot of money is needed there, and it's still assumed that the money supply in the USA will also be increased. Because, for example, Joe and Paul had an interview today. Many people think, something could happen there. The money printer will be turned on, and that will be positive for Bitcoin. But to be completely honest, nothing has changed in the underlying situation. They will simply watch and wait. Nothing will happen, in my personal opinion. Yes, and if you look at the M2 money supply, the Bitcoin chart, I've said it a few times already, the Bitcoin chart pretty much follows this money supply. And if that's how it turns out, because that's the money supply, that's the M2 money supply, folks. That's the global money supply. And if it really tracks along like that, then we're talking about almost $170,000 here. If it does track along like that, we need to be careful. Here's another chart that looks like this, and if we were to hit everything exactly the same way, including the tops, then we're talking about $116,000 on June 7th. Yes, June 7th, $125,000 on June 23rd, and $140,000 on July 26th. But let me be clear, I don't think it will follow along 100% like that. And since I just said that things are more likely to go into a summer slump, I really can't assume that this will stay the same. So I'm very curious. I think $116,000 as a top, as in after this run up where it only went up, then there was a pullback. Here came the pullback, then another push upwards. I can imagine that, yes, but as I said, with everything that's going on in the world right now and all these trade agreements, I'm very skeptical that we'll see positive developments around the summer. So I'm really torn, but with the current situation, it's difficult, really difficult to be optimistic. All right, so let's take a look at the current charts. We can see that everything is pretty much in the red right now. Over the past 7 days, there have been very few winners in the top 100. Let's check out the top 100 winners. Let's take a quick look. It should be, here, the SPX Quant, only a few winners. It's a different story the other way around. Radium is up 27%, Dorcal Fat is up 24%. So you can see even the FOT coin, which had previously surged so much, obviously has to experience some pullbacks, but we're seeing a lot of meme coins here, Bonk included, that have had pullbacks, some of them quite extreme. Now let's dive in specifically with the current market update. Of course, when Bitcoin drops, the market volume, or rather the crypto market cap, also goes down, and that's only logical. Looking at the fear and greed index, we can see it's currently moving back a bit into the neutral zone, which is quite healthy. That's what I've been saying. You can't just keep going up. Just like with the Bitcoin chart, it went up into greed mode. Honestly, it was obvious that it wouldn't just stay in greed, it had to experience a pullback. And this pullback is basically what we've just seen. And that's exactly what the fear and greed index indicated as well. Now, about the altcoin season. Is it an altcoin season? Yes or no? We can see that we're gradually moving further out of the Bitcoin season. Yes, but it's an indicator that you can show again. But honestly, I think this was mainly influenced by, for example, Fartcoin, SPX, and once again, a few more meme coins that popped up. So, once again, just a few meme coins that actually managed to climb up. And those did contribute a bit to us moving out of the Bitcoin season and a little into the altcoin season area. But I still maintain that it is Bitcoin season because the whole thing is still not driven by retail investors. It's still mostly driven by institutions, and of course the big topic is still Bitcoin reserves, large investors in Bitcoin, and also, for example, what MicroStrategy is doing, but also what Metaplanet is doing. And now there's also this Trump construct that they're going to build around Bitcoin. That's what's driving the Bitcoin chart, not the retail investors who are out on the street saying, wow, I made so much money with Bitcoin today. We're hardly seeing any of that yet. That's why it remains exciting to watch, and I don't think retail investors will jump in this summer because the good weather will lure people outside rather than into the Bitcoin market. So we won't experience a dramatic summer slump, but I still think, or rather, based on the current situation, I now believe that we will see a summer slump, but not as severe, just below 100,000, but will stay above 90,000. That's where I stand. But maybe in 2 weeks, I'll tell you something different. It's always very important to keep an eye on the latest news and to observe the current situation. And now, the current situation as of June 2nd actually makes me feel more pessimistic about a summer slump. So it looks like we really will see a summer after all. It remains exciting. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and check out everything I showed you. With that, thank you very much for watching and see you in the next video.